So I called Kim Riddle last night. Kim Riddle is our vice president of HR. And if you don't know Kim, Kim's a rock star. And the conversation went something like this. Hey, Kim, how are you? I'm great, Matt. How are you? Kim, I'm doing awesome. The conference is going on. It's really going well. But I got one question for you. And Kim says, sure, anything, Matt. What is it? I said, Kim, we got 43,000 employees around the globe. 43,000. Just one question. Are all 43,000 of our employees human beings? And she kind of chuckles and laughs, and she says, oh, Matt. So Kim and I have worked together now for a few years, and she's kind of got used to my off-the-wall kind of silly questions. I was like, no, Kim, I'm serious. I need to know this. It's going to be important for me tomorrow. Are all of our employees human? So there's this long, awkward pause, and she comes back. It seemed like it was forever. It was probably only 15, 20 seconds. She said, yep, I confirmed it. All of our employees are human beings. It's like, great, Kim. And I'm not sure how she did it that quick, because checking 43,000, but she did it in like 15 seconds. So that was pretty impressive. I said, thanks, Kim. I appreciate your help. We'll see you tomorrow at the conference. So that's really important for all of us to know. It's important that all of us are human beings. We know that. And the cool thing is, all of us, no matter what country, what state, what region we work in, we all have at least one thing in common. All humans make mistakes. We're all fallible, right? We all make mistakes. So I've been up here for about a minute now, and I've told you two things. We're all humans, and we all make mistakes. I know you're thinking, boy, Matt's a rocket science today, right? He's really on to something. It's not even that interesting, because we all know this. Why is it then, are we surprised or even mad when a mistake happens and an event occurs? Why is that? It's because our systems, our processes, and even more importantly, our culture expects perfection. But perfection's not reality. We're going to make mistakes. It's not if a mistake happens, it's when a mistake happens. And we got to shift our thinking from it's not if, it's when. Now, my staff will tell you, if there's one thing I'm good at, that's screwing up and messing up. I make mistakes. There's been like 5 already today, right? But you know what? When I make a mistake, I get one of these. I get a backspace button, or I get a delete button. I'd spell something wrong, I backspace, I put a wrong formula into the spreadsheet, it's the delete, and everything's good. Our employees don't get that in the field. It's our job to show them where that backspace button is. How do we get a backspace button or capacity for failure into their work? I have capacity into my work in the office. We have to get that capacity into the field. Now let's talk about numbers for a second. TRI, our OSHA recordables, recordable rates. I'll put our numbers up against anybody's. You could even say we're world class, whatever world class means. We have more exposure today than we've ever had in our history, and we hurt fewer people. And our injury rates are low. But what we got to remember is the absence of injuries does not mean the presence of safety. Absence of injuries does not mean the presence of safety. And we know this because we still have significant events. We still have life-changing, significant events in our organizations. Why is that? Why are they still occurring? To answer that question, I think we got to do a little history lesson around safety and where we've come as a profession. Now, here in North America, and specifically the United States, you go back to the 1960s and 70s, and far too many Americans were getting hurt, maimed, and killed in the workplace. The government stepped in and said, we have to do something about this. So they came out and they created OSHA, right? The Occupational Safety Health Administration. And within a couple years, we had rules-based safety, and they're largely in place today. And they had an effect. The fatality rates came down. We had a standard set of rules for industry to operate within, except the significant events didn't go away. They were still there. They came down, but they were still there. Fast forward 15, 20 years, here comes behavioral-based safety, right? With behavioral-based safety, we're trying to fix the employee. Now, I think we can influence the employee, but fix the employee, get rid of all human error? I don't think we can ever get rid of all human error. We're all human. But we can influence. And I think both of these programs, both rules-based and behavioral-based, played a critical role to get us to where we are today. But neither programs, either individually or combined, have eliminated all significant events. Two things that cause that. You can't legislate failure out of work. I can't write a new rule, a new regulation, send it out in an email, do a safety meeting and say, all right, failure's gone. We're not gonna have that failure anymore. And I cannot eliminate all error out of humans. As much as I would like to, it's not gonna happen. You cannot legislate failure out of our work, and you cannot eliminate error out of humans. We can influence, but we can't eliminate. So let's talk about this thing of mistakes. Now, I'm not talking about like big mistakes, like, I wish I hadn't dropped out of college, or I forgot my wedding anniversary again. You got capacity the first year, second year, there's no capacity for forgetting that wedding anniversary, right? I'm not talking about those big mistakes. Those are huge. I'm talking about small mistakes, small departures, small mistakes, small departures from our work. Now, in a room like this, I assume we have some hunters in the room. Am I right? Have you ever been sitting in the woods early morning, long before daylight? The conditions are perfect. The sun starts to rise. Off in the distance, the monster whitetail is coming right your way. Progressing in. Now you're prepared. You're dressed in mossy oak camouflage, head to toe. You got face paint on. Life is good. It's perfect. Shooting light comes. The monster bucks 35 yards broadside. A breeze kicks up. Not to worry, you sprayed deer urine all over yourself. They don't even know you're there. It's perfect. You turn to grab your gun and snap, you hit a twig. Deer puts his tails up, go on, you don't even get a shot off. Ever happened to you? Happened to me. 10 years old, I was in Tar Hollow State Park hunting with my father. Some of the best moments of my life hunting with my father. I got to get out of school, go deer hunting for the day. It was awesome. This deer is coming right at us. To this day, the biggest deer I've ever seen. I don't mean alive, dead. I mean biggest deer ever. Hunting shows, whatever, the biggest whitetail I've ever seen still to this day. I scared that deer off that day, and I thought my dad was gonna shoot me, right? Now, come to find out, I'm pretty good at scaring deer off because I did that a few other times to Dad, but he still took me hunting. It was good. How about fishing? We got some fishermen in the room today. This is the first big fish I ever caught. Have you ever been standing on the bank or maybe even on a boat and there's this pool of water over there and you know that monster bass is in it, right? I mean, that big largemouth bass, not 3 or 4 pounds, we're 7, 8 pounds. And you know it's over there. Conditions are perfect. The sun's just starting to set. The temperature's dropping. The bugs are coming out. The water looks like a sheet of ice. I mean, it's perfect. And you have the best equipment. You have a Zepco 33, which is the best fishing rod ever made. And you have the jitterbug. Now, I'm not talking about the great big jitterbug that I don't know what you ever caught with the great big jitterbug. And not that small one that you might catch a bluegill on, right? You have that mid-sized jitterbug, the perfect one, the one that you know is just right for this condition. You push the button in on that reel, you cast the lure, it's flying right towards it. It's glass, it's perfect. Right before it hits the water, snags that tree branch. Ever happened to you? Happened to me. Three Fingers Cove, Rocky Fork Lake. You see that red circle? My lure's still hanging in that flipping tree. It's been 25 years ago. This is my favorite lure. 25 years, I bet it's still hanging there. It was perfect. Do you think I need more rules? Man, I went to hunter's education. I donated my $12 to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I had a fishing license. I had gun safety. I had the rules in my back pocket. I was ready. Do you think I needed more rules? Do you think I didn't care enough? This is the biggest deer I've ever seen. This was my best lure I ever had. I caught every big bass I'd ever caught on this lure. And I know I could have bought another one for $4.95 at Walmart, but this was my lure, my best lure. Did I not care enough? I'd been feeding this deer 3 meals a day for like 6 months. I did everything but tie it up. Did I not care? Was I not prepared? I had a life vest on, I had a first aid kit, I had an emergency response plan. Oh, I cared. Think about this. Right up until that twig snapped or my lure got caught, everything felt right. Right up until it was flying across the air. It was looking good, right until it hung in the tree. Everything felt right. 35 yards, broadside. Everything was right until the twig broke. Everything felt right up until it wasn't. It's the same way in the field. Our employees don't come to work thinking today's the day. Everything feels right up until it's not. They're prepared. They're well trained. Everything feels right until catastrophe strikes. Do we need more rules? New rules? This is the latest printing of the Quanta safety manual. Now, I'm somewhat kidding, but you get my point. Do you think our employees don't care enough? They're prepared. We've trained them. They want to make a good living for their families. They care. So what do we got to do? Writing another rule does not prevent error. Asking employees to care more does not prevent mistakes. Think about that. Writing another rule will not prevent error. Asking our employees to care more will not prevent mistakes. So what are we going to do? We got to start looking at our work differently. We got to realize that how we plan or imagine work takes place is not really how it takes place. When we're sitting in the office and we imagine building that pipeline, it's on a nice, sunny, cool day, no mud, level ground. How many pipelines do we build like that? How many power lines do we build like that? How many times do we walk in the refinery and it's just like we thought? It's more like that bottom picture, isn't it? Always twists and turns. Always something going on. Let's look at a simple example. So I live north of Houston. I live in the Woodlands, about 35 miles north of here. My planned route, and you'll hear us call this the black line. My black line or planned route is I get on 45 south. I take it down to 610 west. I take 610 around to Hidalgo exit, and I pull into the Williams Tower. That's the plan. How many people live in Houston, work in Houston, drive in a big city, maybe took an Uber from the airport to here? How many times do you think that actually happens? Never. What actually happens? So call this the blue line. So I get on 45 South, Waze pops up and says there's a wreck at 1960. No problem, I jump on the Hardy Toll Road. I take the Hardy Toll Road south to 610 West. Well, those of us that live in Houston know that where 610 goes under 45 condenses down from like 25 lanes to 2. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Traffic's backing up. So what do? I go across 25 lanes of traffic, I get on the exit, and I get on 45 South. Life is good. Take 45 South to 10 West. I get to 610, I take 610 South. I get off on Hidalgo Street, and I pull into the Williams Tower parking garage. The blue line. It's not how I planned it. It's not how I imagined my commute going, but that's what happened. Anything wrong with that? No, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nobody trained better than me. I'm highly trained to drive from my driveway to the Williams Tower. I'm trained better than anybody else on that commute. I promise you, and I'm in good equipment. Small departures from our plan. Small departures from the plan. And in fact, there's nothing wrong with it. I got rewarded. I got to office just a few minutes earlier. I would have been 20 minutes late. I got to the office the same time Duke got to the office. I was able to park his car. I carried his bag up to his office. And I got his first cup of coffee. Now, he told me I put too much sugar in it, and I'm working on that. But I got FaceTime with Duke. I got rewarded, right? Small departures from my plan, but I got rewarded for this. Small departures. Our employees, just like me, and just like my commute to work, our employees are highly trained, and they work in a dynamic work environment every day. And they have to make small departures from their plan every day, and we expect them to, and they need to. They're trained to do so. And it's perfectly fine. And they do a good job. And when they come in ahead of schedule, under budget, they get rewarded too, right? It might be a pat on the back, it might be financial reward, it might be something. They get rewarded for this behavior as well. Until someone gets hurt. And then we change our response. Safety team comes out. Blame, shame, and retrain. Have you ever heard of this? Yeah. Not only have we heard it, we do it and have done it for years, right? We blame the employee for making a mistake, bad behavior, poor choice, whatever it is. We have a safety meeting. We might even take the employee around to the safety meetings and have him tell his peers how he made a mistake, right? And then we retrain everybody because that makes everything better. We retrain everybody on how this employee made a mistake. And then what we're really good at, we'll write a new policy or add a new rule. Now we got rule 195.2B III revision 4, page 632 of the safety manual. And we go like this. Man, we fixed that. Fixed the employee. We told everybody else not to be silly and do that. We trained everybody, and we wrote a new rule. Man, I'm going back to the Williams Tower. Life is good. We fixed it. Not going to have that happen anymore. Do you think that's the way it goes? Do you think we fixed anything with that scenario? How many times do we do that? What we really did is we tried to train humans how not to be human. And that's a tough task. We tried to train humans how not to make a mistake. What we need to do is look at the context of the work and understand how we can build capacity in, because it's not if we make a mistake, it's when we make a mistake. And when that mistake happens, do we have capacity to fail safely? Now, I'm a Ford guy. Always have been a Ford guy. I don't know about you and where you grew up, but where I grew up, we had loyalty to an auto manufacturer, and my family is a Ford family. And if you're not Ford, you can leave now. So if I mentioned Chevrolet in my house growing up, I had to sleep outside for a week, and I may or may not get food and water on day 3. My dad, he still farms today. He has 4 tractors. All 4 tractors are Fords. He has all New Holland implements, because you know Ford owns New Holland. I only drive Fords today. It runs deep. I think there's something that we can learn from Ford, and I guess, even though I don't like to admit it, the auto industry and other manufacturers. They kind of have rules-based safety, right? When you drive, how many rules do we have? How many regulations? We're well regulated. We got stoplights, we got speed limits, we got yellow lines, white lines, double yellow lines, turning lanes. We have some rules when we drive. But all of our significant events haven't went away. Now they've helped, but they haven't went away. So then we get into behavioral-based safety, right? We try to fix the driver. We put all of our kids in driver's ed. We try to give them good behaviors starting out. And for all the kids that we mess up, when they get to the workplace, we try to give them defensive driving, try to fix them again. And we're at 10 and 2, and we're checking mirrors every 7 seconds, and we got following distance and stopping distance, and we're trying to influence those drivers' behaviors. But they've done some really cool things with prevention too. Just like us, they work on prevention every day. Now, if I go left to center and my blinker's not on, my steering wheel vibrates. That's pretty cool. If somebody's in my blind spot, there's a light flashing in my mirror. That's pretty awesome. If we're backing up, my dash pops up, there's a camera. I can see, got eyes in the back of my head. All prevention, right? And really good stuff, and they continue to innovate. But Ford knows it's not if I make a mistake, it's when I make a mistake. Even with all this prevention, it's not if, it's when. So they stopped trying to fix me, and they started building capacity into my truck. Now, what's capacity look like in my truck? Something like this. In the cab of my F-150, I have somewhere around 15 airbags. I got a seat belt that holds me in place so the airbags work properly. The frame of the truck now is designed to collapse. It almost entombs me if I have a significant event. So I have the capacity to fail safely. The event still happens, but I have a much better chance of walking away safely, right? Much better chance because they're putting capacity for failure. They realize it's not if I make a mistake, it's when I make a mistake. We got to change our focus. It's not who drove the failure, it's what drove the failure. We have to change our thinking. Prevention is always going to be our foundation. We're always going to try to prevent every incident. But we're going to plan and execute our work as if failure is going to happen today. Because it's not if, it's when. We're going to plan and execute our work as if failure is going to happen today. This is a paradigm shift for us. Prevention is always going to be there. We're looking for capacity in our work. How do we get capacity into our work? And then we're going to do operational learnings, and we're going to learn the context of the good days and context of the bad days. How did we get capacity on the good days? How did we miss capacity on the bad days? People are going to make mistakes. We have to accept that. We must start building capacity into our works so our employees return home safely to their families. We gotta build capacity. With this approach, I promise you, we can and we will eliminate all significant events. All life-changing events can be stopped if we get capacity into our work. One of my favorite leadership quotes of all time is from Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl said, if you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get on. Let me tell you, our rocket ship's taking off today, and we all have a seat. And together, we can change the way our industries do safety. Let's go.